That's right, happy anniversary to us. We are married and we have been married for 1 year now. It was a crazy ride getting married in 4 months. In one of our previous videos, we've shared that the world doesn't love marriage, and it does not hold it to the standard that God does. And so we just want to make sure that in any moment we can, we're sharing with you guys the wonderful life that marriage offers. We can consistently see the hand of God in sanctification, in provision, and in so many other things, just making us more like Christ through each other. And that's a great thing.
I think it depends on where you place your happiness, or where you place your value. And in a God-centered marriage, your value is placed in the pursuit of holiness and Christ-likeness and sanctification. And because our marriage has been full of moments where we are being sanctified probably every single day, and that's what makes us happy. Not always in the moment, but looking back, it's beautiful. Marriage is beautiful, and it's a huge blessing from the Lord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember in the whirlwind of our engagement days how discouraging it could have been when so many people wanted to tell us to live together before you're married, and they gave us so much wisdom that the world would offer. Test the waters, but it's against the will of God. And by the grace of God, we maintain confidence in His purpose for marriage, and it's just wonderful to see how faithful He is to provide for us and to consistently show us that He hasn't abandoned us. We went from living with people, with many different people for half a year, to having our own studio, and now we have our own 1-bedroom apartment. We have a beautiful living room. We have our own furniture. And it's not that God promised us these things, but He has provided it, and we trusted Him to provide whatever He would, and we're just super blessed by what He's done.
That goes along with what the pastor was talking about this Sunday, where he was talking about the wisdom of the world and how don't stand with scoffers.
Yeah.
Psalm 1.
Yeah,
We got a lot of wisdom from well-meaning people when we first got married, but it wasn't the wisdom of the Lord from His Word. And we just desiring to get married right away was because we knew that the base of our marriage, the foundation of our marriage, was going to be on Christ. And with that, we could do anything, really. The Lord would provide, and He would bless our marriage because He was the one who created marriage. So just trusting Him, not to provide lavishly, but to provide the necessities, and everything else is a blessing. And doing it to the best of our ability, and failing and trying again. But it's been the most challenging year and the most rewarding year.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know, it feels like it just keeps getting better as we persevere. Now we live in a beautiful apartment with 2 married couples that are about our age, that are firm believers, and it's just been wild. And then just our relationship with each other has grown to be more understanding and deep. Yeah, every time we push past a momentary situation of hopelessness or um, anxiety, we're reminded of the foundation of our marriage. And so, yeah, I think the beauty of marriage is that God continuously displays his power through the weakness of us. Um, there's just always a testimony. Uh, and it's hard sometimes to see it when we slip into humanistic um, thoughts and perspectives, when we think that everything should look good. Um, yeah, it was hard to see this place as a blessing when we first considered moving here, when it's much more dangerous of an area than we are used to, or at least than we were living before, and we had other options that may have costed more but would be more comfortable. But since we've moved here, it's been great. Has the first year panned out the way you thought it would?
No. I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what I expected. I don't think I expected it to be so hard, and that's not like complaining. That's like people say that the first year is the hardest, I think, but you don't really expect it, or you don't know what is going to be challenging for you until you're experiencing it.
Sure.
Like there are just seeing a lot of selfishness in myself. I think I've learned over this year. Like I'm very impatient, and I knew those things, but they're so much more extreme when you're put like in a close proximity, and like I don't get to like get away. I don't get to just like ignore my sin. You have to confront it right away. I think it's really hard and really rewarding. So
Yeah, I totally feel that, and I've talked to my friends about that, like who are married. When you're in sin, you can't even look at your spouse without like 100 pounds of guilt being placed on your shoulders, and you just are caused to either, God forbid, harden your heart, and it can go down a really slippery slope, or confess immediately and grow together. Though it's hard, and though like it can cause conflict, with a godly perspective and understanding, it usually brings unity and
humility.
Yeah. And forgiveness is just such a deep part of love that I think our culture doesn't look for and doesn't notice, because we're so caught up in trying to convince ourselves that we're good and convince other people that we're great, and we want to be the victims, so if we do anything wrong, there's a reason for it. But when you can just humbly confess the hard parts of your faults and be accepted for it and be understood, and just live with someone in the midst of those things, there's no like deeper love than that, I feel like. And I think that's why the gospel is so powerful as well. I think that's what the gospel shows, is that man's deep need in so many different ways, and the ultimate way obviously was our forgiveness of sin, but I think forgiveness is huge.
I think marriage, it's really up to the participants of marriage to decide what they're going to do. Because like you said, you could either harden your heart, or you could step out in humility and not love yourself so much. You know, I feel like one of the most difficult things for me was to allow you to see my sin. Because there were so many times, I guess, like in dating relationships, you don't want, and even in friendships, like you don't want people to see you at your worst or you being sinful. You want them, you want to say the testimony after the fact, but you don't want somebody there with you in it, because it just brings, I guess, more shame on yourself, because you just want to get through it and be like the champion of it, but you don't want to have somebody there. But having a spouse and like really being intentional about repenting and being intentional about calling sin what it is in your marriage and to each other, I think it's really hard, but it's really beautiful as well. Because I know I had to, I still am, like I have to accept that. I had to accept that I am not going to be perfect in your eyes, and you're going to still love me even if I don't do everything right.
Yeah.
And even if I sin against you, you're still gonna love me, and that's what love is.
Mm-hmm.
That continual, and that's how Christ loves us, is even in our sin, when we were yet sinners, he died for us. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't when we were like all put together that he was like, oh wow, yeah, I love you guys. Yeah. It was like you need love, and that's when I know we need love the most, is when we're at our darkest or our hardest.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've kind of learned that too, that like when we're caught red-handed, it's so much harder to act humbly, because even when we're being humble and confessing, there's still something for us to gain, whether it's like that little sense of self-righteousness or I don't know, we can give ourselves like brownie points for confessing sin, but when you're caught red-handed, all the guilt is there, 100%. Mm-hmm. You haven't confessed it, you haven't done anything right, and you kind of have to go a long way from being proud in your sin to being humble and repenting.
Yeah. I think one of the things, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the biggest lesson that we've learned in 1 year is not to just coast, is to really actively, we read a book and it's called like Pulling Up Weeds. Uh-huh. So to really actively talk to each other about things that are like concerning us or that are uncomfortable. And I think for me especially, it's so easy to just say, well, you're going to do your thing, I'm going to do mine, and we'll just keep forgiving each other and it's no big deal. But mm-hmm. to really bring it up and talk about it, because you want to be on the same page. And it's easy to just be ships passing in the night and just like be roommates, be friends, but to not really love each other and really hold each other accountable in ways that maybe we've hurt each other, or ways that we see the other person failing. And that's the beautiful thing. That's our job as spouses, is we get to be there to hold each other accountable and to make each other more like Christ and to encourage one another in that way. And I think the more that we started doing that, the more that we really paid attention to those things, it made our marriage more rich. Yeah. In being able to do that, because then there's more trust that's built too. I feel like
it's easier when you're first getting married to be intentional, and then when things kind of start to build up, when you really start to like see the sin of each other, that's when you're left having to make a decision. And over time, it's easy to just find your place of independence, whether it's a hobby or scrolling on social media or watching videos, watching TV, or even like a household chore. There's just there's a lot of ways that we can sink into the background and let go of that intentionality that is really necessary for growth, because it's just really easy to fall into different types of sin when it doesn't feel like that's being cared about in the relationship, when like there isn't like a close eye on like building each other up, encouraging one another in sanctification, but rather just like this kind of fake passive trust of like, well, if you don't bring anything to me, I just assume you're doing well, you know. And we've learned and we've known since coming to a deeper understanding of the gospel, or a fuller understanding of the gospel rather, that as human beings we're just constantly prone toward sin, and we need to know that in marriage. And it's really easy to kind of slip back into, you just think the worst of me, like you just don't understand who I am, like why would you think that I'm always trying to do bad things? And though we should trust one another and like give each other the benefit of the doubt in a lot of ways, it doesn't mean we can't check in with each other and say, hey, are you doing as well as you look like you're doing? Like, do you need a reality check to like what's going on in your life, like behind the scenes? Because like it could be just two strangers in the night, like that one song, but I don't think that's what he's talking about. Nope. But we could be two individuals that live in the same house, have different jobs, and we just end up being like roomies.
And even still having like romantic moments and like still having those interactions with each other as husband and wife, but you're missing something deeper that could be really dangerous if left unchecked. And it's not like a condemning like idea. It's truly just being accountable to one another and spurring each other on to be more like Christ, which, I mean, if we're honest, all of us are always struggling with something.
Yeah.
It's not easy. And so it's so nice to have a partner to be there and to check in.
Yeah. Sorry, my card was full, and
It's fine, just pretend like it didn't happen.
oh, sorry, my card was full, and so I had to delete some stuff. But we're gonna wrap up with some quirky things that we've learned about each other, and then just how wonderful marriage is. For me, the weirdest thing Taylor Ann does, and it's super weird. It honestly has like ticked me off a few times, and I'm already upset. And it's no matter where we park, she pulls the parking brake up. Like we'll be on flat ground, and I'll be like, "Where is the car going? Is it going to roll flat?" Like I don't even use the parking brake when I'm on like a steep hill. And I've never had my car roll. I'm pretty sure cars are made to stay in place now. This isn't the 50s or I don't know. I'll always be critical of that, I think, until my car rolls into traffic because I didn't do it.
Well, for the record, my grandpa taught me to do that. And so now I just do it and I don't pay attention that I do it.
It's okay. We all have crazy things we do for crazy reasons.
Well, something weird, not weird, it's just funny and surprising that I learned about Noah is his love for like a good smelling home. Like he will invest a lot of money into like candles and good smelling soap and I got him into essential oils, and so like just the good smellingness.
Not like weird level essential oils,
No,
just because
no,
of the
just-
good smell.
Just the smell of
They
it.
don't cure me. They don't cure me of my ailments.
Just for the, putting it in a diffuser and having the room
Aromatherapy.
smell good. But it was really funny because I didn't realize that. And
Yeah.
now that's something we both like to.
I
Look for-
love having a great smelling house. I don't know why anyone wouldn't. When I grew up, we had candles around the house, but they were never lit. Like it was like taboo to light a candle in my house growing up. And so I made sure when I get my own house, I'm lighting all the candles all the time. I got it smelling good, and my guests are going to feel cozy.
But it's not a bad thing. It's a really good thing. But it was just surprising
Yeah.
because, I didn't think that was. I mean, obviously, it's something you care about. If it smells bad, you're like, you notice, but you don't normally. I don't know.
And Tay has an odd fascination with making bread.
It's not odd.
But I think that's just a girl thing. I think I'm learning that women, like, she'll just talk to her friends and be like, oh, I'm making this bread today. And they'll be like, oh, I've wanted to do that. Like, I've looked into bread.
Making the home.
It's
the
cool.
part
Like,
of it.
Taylor Ann's amazing at baking and cooking and things like that, but. Thumbnail. Cover your face. Yeah, we're still married. Yeah,
Cover
we're
my
still
face.
married.